Good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever. This is my newest video, and it's about a New York Times opinion piece video on the internet, which is surprising that they actually did some decent journalism here, but it's in the opinion piece. And I have some issues with this, but in most overall it's good reporting. The video is called Liberal Hypocrisy is Fueling American Inequality. Here's how. It's pretty good reporting here. There's some minor issues I have with it, which I'll go over when time comes. But yeah, let's get it. Let's check this out and let's start looking at this. If this ever works. Here we go. Thank you.
For a very long time, and it has to do with this map. This is a map of the 18 states in the US where Democrats control the legislative and executive branches, or else have some veto-proof majority in the legislature. Democrats in DC often blame the GOP for foiling their progressive vision.
When middle-class families see their taxes go up, they'll know Republicans are to blame.
But if you zoom into these 18 states, there's effectively no Republicans standing in the way. So my question is, what do Democrats actually do when they have all the power? To answer this question, I teamed up with the Times editorial board writer Binya Applebaum.
Okay, you got my attention.
He's been thinking about and writing books about and reporting on this topic for decades.
I think, Americans tend to view politics as a competition of us versus them, and they tend to think...
And that's the fault of the New York Times, ironically, and the establishment press. It's like these people, they don't realize that they work for a news organization that fuels that type of politics.
If they would just get out of the way, then we can do the things that we want to do. There is no them standing in the way. There's just the we of Democrats and their supporters, and they get to decide what policy should look like in those states, and that is an opportunity for them to implement their vision.
For this story, I also delved into this giant document. It is the 2020 Democratic Party platform. If you want to really understand what Democrats say they want, what their vision is for America, it's found inside of this document. This document serves as a guide. As we zoom into these states...
That's the key word. It serves as a guide. They don't have to do any of this, what's in that platform. So yeah, let's keep going.
To answer this question, what do Democrats really do when they have all the power?
Nearly 554,000 homeless people
from the 25 wealthiest Americans shows they're paying little in income taxes compared to their fortunes, sometimes nothing at all.
We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
There's still very intense segregation happening in all kinds of forms all over this country.
Okay, so let's start with California. To me, California is like the quintessential liberal state. From the state legislature to the whole...
Look at that. Look at that. Bunch of Democrats up and down in Sacramento. Nothing but Democrats. Why can't they get a single-payer system in California? Why can't they end homelessness in California? Why can't they do any of these progressive policies that all these Democrats in theory are in favor of? Let's see.
Executive branch to most of the big cities.
The most oily politician of all time, Gavin Newsom. Oh my, I can't stand even looking at that guy with his slick back hair and his smile, his fake ass smile.
Dems hold majority control. So what do they do with all this power?
Looking at California, you have to look at housing.
Okay, now wait, listen. When I hear the words housing policy, I tend to sort of doze off. But Binya insists that housing policy and what is happening in California is definitely worth looking at.
You cannot say that you are against inequality in America unless you are willing to have affordable housing built in your neighborhood.
And Democrats completely agree. Here in this document, the word housing is mentioned over 100 times.
The neighborhood...
This is the theme throughout this video. They keep going back to the platform and pretending that they should do what the platform, that they want to do what the platform says it does, and they really don't. Progressives mostly wrote that platform as a bone that Biden threw to them. Same thing Hillary Clinton in 2016. They threw these progressives a bone. Here, you write the platform pretty much, and we won't do any of it, but at least you get to say to your voters, that to your fellow progressives, that we actually did something. We mostly wrote the platform. which is meaningless. It might as well, it's called mental masturbation. You're writing out what your dream is, and for progressives, then the actual leaders never do anything with it. Alright, let's keep going.
Where you're born has a huge influence on the rest of your life.
Sorry about this
Children who are
lag. I
born
don't know
in
why it's
neighborhoods with degraded environmental conditions, with a lack of access to high-quality public services, poor schools, poor public transit, are at a permanent disadvantage.
And they even say verbatim, housing in America should be stable, accessible, safe, healthy, energy efficient, and above all, affordable.
Housing is a human right.
Democrats are bullshitters. That's why they're not going to actually do the things that they say in their platform. I mean, that's the thing, like with the New York Times, like they actually pretend that the platform actually means something and the party's actually going to follow their platform.
Housing is a human right.
The rent is going through the roof. Housing is a human right.
How does California do when it comes to housing?
You know where those signs are when you drive into a state, it says, "Welcome to California"? They might as well replace them with signs that say, "Keep out." Because in California, the cost of housing is so high that for many people it's simply unaffordable. The state has simply, for the most part, stopped building housing. I mean, there are cranes, there's housing going up, but it has slowed down over time really, really sharply, and it is nowhere near sufficient to keep pace with California's population. And so what you have is not enough housing and too many people trying to get it, and the inevitable result is that prices have gone up, and away.
The median price of a home in San Diego County is now a staggering $830,000.
Damn. That's absurd. Who would not be able to afford a house at $800? Who would? $830,000? That's insane.
All around California, there are cities full of people who say that they are progressive, they're liberals. They believe in a more equal America, a more diverse America. They show up to the marches, they put in the lawn signs about everyone being equal, but at the same time, they're actively fighting to keep their neighborhoods looking like this. Okay, wait, but that doesn't look so bad. It's just a bunch of houses in a neighborhood, right? No. It turns out that this is actually the result of specific policies, intentional policies that keeps these neighborhoods spread out and full of single-family homes, as opposed to higher density buildings like duplexes or apartment complexes. This is a real, serious fight, and you can get a glimpse into it by looking at a zoning map. Yes, we're looking at a municipal zoning map of Palo Alto, California. Don't leave yet. This is really where it sinks in, so just stick around. So everything on this map that is yellow is zoned for single-family homes, like this and this. One family can live here. But here in Palo Alto, there are a lot of new jobs. This is a desirable place to live for new opportunity.
But actually, this part is really important because it perfectly encapsulates the problem in California and why there's so many homeless people.
Over the past 8 years, the San Francisco area has added 676,000 jobs, but only 176,000 housing units. So a few years ago, the city council voted to change the zoning of one section of the city right here. Specifically this 2-acre plot of land. They wanted to change it from low-density housing to higher density housing so that they could build a 60-unit affordable housing complex for elderly members of the community. Okay, so they changed the zoning. Start building the 60-unit complex. No, the overwhelmingly liberal residents of Palo Alto,
keyword, liberal. Remember that part, they're liberal.
Decided to hold a vote to overturn the decision, to revert it back to low-density, single-family housing, back to yellow. And it passed, and the zoning was over.
Look at that, it passed by 13 points. They overturned the city council. The liberals in this city passed to overturn what the council did. By 13 points.
So now when you go to this plot of land, instead of an affordable housing complex for the elderly, what you're going to see is this. A row of just a few houses, all of them massive and worth around $5 million each.
Holy shit, $5 million? That's absurd, man. And these are supposedly liberals and progressives that live in California. What they're worried about is the value of their home. If you build some big-ass, like, senior citizens property, they're rent-controlled, the home property go down, their own home. So these are a bunch of selfish fuckers here.
I think people aren't living their values. You go to these meetings in these neighborhoods where they're talking about a new housing project, and it's always the same song.
If you aren't living your values, and they aren't your values, you don't believe in them, you're just bullshitting at that point. Making yourself feel better, white knighting.
And it goes like this. I am very in favor of affordable housing. We need more of it in this community. However, I have some concerns about this project.
We have the hearts to do this, but we're doing it wrong, and we're dictating and harm onto the neighborhoods.
And then off we go with the concerns, and then nothing ever gets built.
This is happening all over California. And the result is that these neighborhoods are so expensive that they keep anyone out who isn't a part of this small group of super rich residents, many of whom bought their properties decades ago, and who spend their time fighting vigorously.
Look at that, $8,000 for a house. This is about, I assume, in the 1950s. Those homes today are worth millions, probably. That's why these people are desperate to keep their values of their homes as high as possible.
To keep the value of their real estate assets super high.
If you want to keep Palo Alto the kind of neighborhood and community that we all treasure, low intensity, low density, safe for kids to walk to school, you've got to vote against me.
Safer for kids to walk to school. That's suggesting to me that he's saying, oh, if we build these public housing, low-income housing for seniors, whatever, it won't be safe for our kids to walk home. Who's gonna live in these public housing for seniors and for other people? Hispanics and black people. Look, the liberal hypocrisy is just screams from California, especially. But even my state, New Jersey, there's a bunch of that too. I'll get to that though.
There's an aspect of sort of greed here and of nervousness about actually sharing those opportunities.
Let's go to another liberal bastion up here in Washington state.
Oh, Washington. Look at this again. Democrats dominate the House and the Senate in Washington state as a Democratic governor. But get a load of their taxation
talks
system.
About taxation, saying that our tax code has been, quote, rigged against the American people. Democrats all the time are decrying the fact that tax cuts are going to the wealthiest Americans.
It is time for a wealth tax in America.
Oh my god, I completely forgot. Hold on. See, if you look at homelessness, this is the United States Interagency Council of Homelessness. I can't even say it right. Which I had no idea, by the way, it's a government agency looking at homelessness. Anyway, if you look at the homeless population in the United States, this is from, what year is this from? 2020. Anyways, look at California, 161,000 homeless people approximately. And Oregon's 14,000. Washington State, 22,000. Texas, 27,000. That's a red state. But if you look at most of the blue states, the homeless population is really, really high. New Jersey, 9,000. New York State, 91,000. Massachusetts, 17. Connecticut, Connecticut hasn't much a homeless population, but still a lot, 2,000. Vermont has what was it? Is it 1,000? Oh, 1,000. Okay, 1,000. But most of these blue states have very high homeless populations. Colorado, there's 9,000. Nevada, 6,900. That's more of a swing state, but most of these blue states have a very high homeless population. So, what the hell, you know? I mean, why don't these blue states are all dominated by Democrats? Why don't you actually do something about it? Nope, of course not. Let's go back to taxation now in this video. Liberals are hypocrites. That's really what it is. They don't live their values. They don't believe in their values. In fact, they just say it because they feel like it. They white knight. They love white knighting. Talking about, oh, I want to help blacks. I want to help Hispanics. I want to do everything I can, except when it comes to my neighborhood and except when it comes to my city. I actually won't do anything about it because I actually don't believe it. I'm bullshitting. I just want to make myself feel better and be able to sleep at night. All right, let's keep going with this part here.
Democrats believe in a progressive tax.
That's grandstanding. That's the definition. And what AOC did there with tax the rich, just grandstanding. She won't actually do anything to tax the rich, but she'll put on a dress for fake progressives on the left. Oh, she trolled them. No, she trolled herself, and she embarrassed herself with that. But
system where the rich pay a larger share of their income than the poor. This is like the most basic policy vision of like a progressive movement. It's front and center in Democrats' policy platform.
But if you go and look at Washington state, what you find is that in Washington state, if you look at the state and local taxes that people pay.
Oh my God, look at that. This is according 17% of the taxes are paid by the bottom 20% in Washington state. So most of the taxes are being paid by the poor, according to this graph. And look at the top 1%. 3%. They pay 3% of the taxes in Washington State. It's supposed to be a liberal, progressive state. And the tax system is reversed in what it should be. Look at that. Top one, this should be reversed. The top 1% should pay 18% of the taxes, and the bottom 20% should be paying 3%. So it's totally inverted. And this is a liberal state. My ass.
There, less affluent families pay a much larger share of their income in taxes than
Combined, that's what? I don't want to do the math right now, but that's like 30+% of all taxes being paid by the poor in the state of Washington.
the wealthiest residents of Washington State.
3%.
So people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, two of the state's most famous and wealthy residents, are in this lovely situation of paying less in taxes.
So Bill Gates and Bezos barely pay any federal taxes, and on top of that, they're barely paying any state taxes. So this isn't pretty. I don't blame them living in Washington. I mean, if I were a billionaire, if I lived there too, look at that, 3%. I pay only 3% of the taxes in the state. Sign me up.
As a share of their income than the poor people who live in that same state. And this is a fundamental inversion of the values that the Democratic Party professes. There is no state with a more regressive system of taxation than Washington State.
And I'm talking like the most regressive, meaning
Look
Texas,
at this list.
which is like
Look at Washington State has the most regressive tax system in the country. Even Texas has not even gotten to that level. Even Texas, it looks at them as like, damn, that's ridiculous. We can't even go that far away. Washington State has gone, and we have to have our rich people pay some taxes. I mean, come on. Even Texas didn't go as far as Washington. And Texas is like one of the reddest states in the country. I mean, they don't tax me. I can't do a southern accent, but you get my point. You know, like they hate taxes down there. Even them, they're like, God damn, we gotta make our rich pay some taxes. I mean, or else we can't fund our government. I mean, come on.
the conservative bastion of like anti-taxes is more progressive than Washington State, liberal Washington State. How is that real? Oh, and guess what? Other states on our map also are in the top 10 of most regressive tax regimes.
Nevada, Pennsylvania, Illinois, a lot of blue states are on this list too. Supposedly liberal states that, believe in progressive taxation. They're on this list. Nevada, Pennsylvania, or Illinois. And in fact, I think Nevada is a Republican governor, but they're pretty much a blue state because they vote Democrat nearly every election cycle. So,
like Nevada and Illinois.
There have been some changes, particularly in recent years, but the overall situation remains resistant to change.
So I'm very concerned.
Look at this rich douchebag here. It's in Seattle. I mean, it's like, you can tell he's just a rich douchebag, with that suit and the, and with the collared shirt. I have a collared shirt on too, because I'm about to go out after this is done, so I have to put this on. But yeah, you know what I mean? You can tell he's just a rich douchebag, he don't want to pay any taxes, so let's just listen to him.
At this time, which is a very poor time to disincent people from creating jobs in Washington State, that we're even considering it.
From that paycheck that you earn, more of that money is going to state government. And so the effect of that is basically to exacerbate inequality.
Okay, so rich liberals don't show up when it comes to housing or taxes. Another major theme in this policy document is education.
We'll get to that in a minute. But if you look at states with the highest property tax, this is a Yahoo article from June. If you look at like the top 10 states in the union when it comes to property tax, here's Connecticut. Hey, a shit ton of property tax. Rhode Island, look at that. They're 10th in property tax. Let's say, but I want you to see Vermont. Another they're top of the nation in property tax. Number 4. Excuse me. New Hampshire. I mean, this is like kind of like a blue state, even though it's at times to go Republican, but it's mostly a blue state. They're there in this list. Illinois, Jesus Christ, look at those. And look who's number 1. My home state, New Jersey. Yay, we're number 1. Highest property tax in the nation, by far. Again, I mean, I don't know how you can buy a house here in New Jersey. I live here, but I live in an apartment. If I had money to buy a house, I wouldn't buy it here in New Jersey. Hell, I wouldn't buy it in almost any blue state. I mean, it's so expensive to live in these blue states. So how are you so liberal, but at the same time, you drive out the poor and you drive out the middle class from your state? let's take a look at these are property costs, median house costs in the United States. This is not really that scientific. This is from last year. It's the best I can find. But the typical home state to state, we teamed up with Zillow to find, Zillow is that called? Whatever, that website, to find the median home value each of the 50 states in addition to Washington, D.C. Again, that's not really scientific, but it's the best I can do, and it pretty much makes my point. The cheapest in the country is West Virginia, and a median home price $108,000. Not that outrageous for a house. But if you look at the top 10, let's take a look at that, because I think that's important. Number 10, New York, a blue state, solidly blue. Number 9, New Jersey, again, here, New Jersey, again, top 10 in property value in the United States. Utah, not a blue state, that's a red state, but let's say. Number 7, Oregon, another blue state. Number 6, Colorado, blue state. Washington State, number 5, a blue state. Massachusetts, another blue state. California, look at that, $554,000 for a home. That's the median price for a house in California. That's number 3. Number 2, District of Columbia, or DC. Again, another blue district. You know, it's not really a state, even though it has electoral votes, but it's blue, basically. No, I don't think Republicans ever carried Washington State. No, Reagan did. That's the only one I can remember right now, top of my head. And number 1, Hawaii, another blue state. So let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of the top 10 most expensive states to buy a home in the United States, all blue states. So again, why don't you try to put in policies to lower the prices of your homes so you can have more people live there, not less? Because people are moving out of these blue states like crazy. I want to get out of New Jersey, but it's right now I don't have the finances to do so, but it's very expensive to live here. And I'm like, why the hell am I here? Just go, I don't know, I mean, Florida's nice. I don't know if I want to live in Florida though, but I want to, maybe Pennsylvania's a little cheaper, even, and they're not really here in the top 10, are they? No, they're not here in the top 10. Pennsylvania's a nice state, and I stay close to my family, so that's probably where I'm going, but it's way too expensive to live here. It really is. And I can't, who can afford it? I mean, I can barely get $335,000 for a home in my home state. And we have the top property tax rate in the nation, so I don't have kids, which is why I probably won't get into this whole education part here, because I don't think it's, but if you want, I'll definitely link the video and my sources here in the description box below, so you guys can check it out. And yeah, that's all I pretty much have. I mean, this liberal hypocrisy is nothing but, they really don't believe in this. The only people really believe in it is the progressives, you know, the actual activists that are fighting on the ground. Not even the so-called squad really believes in it. They're more just political actors. Their responsibility is to make sure that you stay in the Democratic Party. They pretend to fight for you. They'll do fake protests. They'll do whatever. They'll do that stuff in order to get you to give them money and to stay in the Democratic Party. That's their goal. They don't really care about any of these policies that can help you. And these rich white liberals who pretend to in these states, I've run into plenty of these people in my state. Man, I mean, I roll my eyes with these people. My point is, they don't really care. It's more about white knighting, grandstanding, and making sure they can sleep at night by going on Twitter or going to these protests and making signs. They're good at making signs, tax the billionaires, but when it comes right down to it, they vote against it or they do nothing. They just sit there and brunch, you know. I would like to do something, but I have to eat my brunch, you know. I have to go play tennis, or I have to go watch my kid play soccer. Again, I'm not making fun of that, but yeah, but they really don't give a shit, ultimately. They're bullshitters. All these people that tell you they believe in this stuff and they're rich and they're fabulously wealthy, but they really don't believe it. They love living in these states. They don't want any change because that means their property values will go down, or that means that if people are homeless, oh well. I don't, it sucks. I mean, I don't want to see homeless people next to my property, but I'm not gonna actually do anything to help these people. All we're gonna do is criminalize it and kick them out of our town. That's what we're gonna do. That's what they did in L.A. They pretty much criminalized homelessness. They're trying to take the homeless out of L.A. Yeah, that's really all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it's not too long, because I think I'm going a little too long here. Please like the video, subscribe, give me a little comment, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day.